Didn't go to Ivy League school, didn't buy a house, didn't marry a Korean woman. Well, okay, kind of did, but more of that later. I had kids when I was way too late, quit my corporate job to do a startup, did it again when I'm 50. I mean, this list goes on, and my parents, they think I'm a failure. And this is the problem with society, actually. And I want to just share this message with any of you out there who feel stuck on following this path, this treadmill with hurdles that you have to hit by a certain time period that's been put upon you, right? And that's all you've known since you were a kid, because as a little kid, you've been raised to think, from school all the way up to wherever you are now, you've been raised to think this. You got to do this by a certain age. You got to get married by a certain age. You got to buy a house by a certain age. You got to have kids by a certain age. The list goes on. And if you don't do that, you're a failure, right? And it's not just your parents, because this game has been created by society. Your parents are just interpreting the game, the contest that society and culture has created, right? And you're playing the game. You're playing the game. And I just want you to know that you can opt out of the game. There is a opt out button, just like on your phone, to flip the switch and decide not to play the game, because the game has been set up to define what success means for you. So somebody else, some group of people over many thousands of years have figured out what success means and contextualize it to the current modern day and age and have given it to you. But you never ask, what the hell is this game, and who created the rules, and why am I playing this? It's just everybody else is playing it. And so I must play it as well. Well, my own parents are telling me to play it. And that's the danger, right? Because what happens is, as you play the game, and you can be very good at it. I know of people who play 10 instruments, went to Ivy League, bought like multiple houses, had beautiful kids, as a lawyer or doctor or some other executive at a company. And when they get there, right, they achieve. And this is like the few that actually they get there and they realize when they're at what they thought would be the top of the mountain peak, there's nothing there. And then it's too late to try and figure out, like, well, what is it? There's no time. So the sooner you understand this, and the sooner you have the courage to hit that opt-out button in the game of life, the sooner you'll be able to actually create your own set of what you think success is and what fulfillment is, ultimately, for you. And you put that construct into play and you flex that, right? And you just, once you do that and you really put in the effort and succeed, you've got to put down the effort, fail and learn from the mistakes and keep growing. Eventually you'll succeed in your own set of rules in playing the game. You'll realize that succeeding and beating the system in your own system that you create gives you a lot more fulfillment, right? And the funny thing is, other people who are stuck playing the game, playing the school game with grades, playing the corporate game with getting promoted and having a higher, more powerful sounding title, playing the family game with the number of kids, how beautiful they are and how smart my kids are, and all these things, they're playing this game and they see you not playing along, but then you're supposed to fail, right? Like if you don't do, you're supposed to, you're an outcast, you're supposed to have a pretty crappy life, and you're not. They see you being really happy, they see you having a good quality of life, they see you actually in the way that they wish they saw themselves, but they can't, right? That will cause them to look at you with intrigue. There'll be a certain level of curiosity, and and that's how you get interest from people to follow you, if you have a message to share with them, which is exactly what I'm doing and how I've been living my life ever since I realized that I can't be part of this game anymore, and I'm going to opt out and flip the switch, which I did. Flipping the switch enabled me to do the unthinkable things, such as getting a divorce. Look, I know a lot of people in Korea get divorces, but it's kind of taboo, especially back when I did it, right? That gave me the chutzpah, or the will to actually do things that I once considered to be taboo, which also included quitting my really stable. Look, I wasn't a complete failure by the book, right? I actually got pretty good jobs that kind of made my parents happy. Working at like the largest hedge fund of the world, or like the best consulting company in the world, and having senior level positions there. those are some things. But what I realized as I attained them, that there's just more to attain, and it was never ending. The rope is never ending. And when I flipped the switch on to say, look, I'm not playing this game. I'm opting out. I'm going to play it according to my own rules. I left. I quit those jobs. I'm going to have to discuss how the process of how I left, because they were shocked. They're like, "What? No, nobody leaves us. You can't leave." I left and did my first startup, and then I left the U.S., which kind of was not in the game of cards, right? I always thought I was going to live in the U.S. forever and ever, right? After I moved there for college, but I decided that no, I can't live there. This is before I think Trump got elected, when I decided to move out of there, and I went to Singapore. And the list keeps going of things that don't fit the normal rules of what you should do, that I keep doing. And what I'm finding is that the more I go out of the boundaries of the path that everyone's supposed to take, the more fulfilling life becomes. Because now I'm doing things that matter to me, right? And I'm doing it in a way where livelihood, meaning support for my family and myself, definitely I have to have education, food, and shelter, and all these things are there, right? Fine, I didn't buy a house, but I'm renting. And you know what? I've been renting and taking the money that I've been paid as a mortgage slave to a bank, and reinvesting it in other asset classes and instruments, some of which have done better than any real estate returns. And that's great, like you don't have to buy a house. I didn't want to go in a 30-year debt program with a bank, especially with house prices at a certain level. It didn't make sense to me. And that's a decision I made decades ago, and I'm happy I made that decision. I avoided the 07-08 fiasco. And right now, we have this other bubble, right, going on. I'm out of it. And it doesn't mean like I'm living like on the streets or anything. No, I mean, I'm here in our own villa here in Bali, for example. When I'm here in Bali, do I own this place? No, I'm renting it. But it's a good value, and I've allocated my assets in other areas that give me better returns. Once you understand that there's this switch to flip, before you flip it, you might think, oh, if I deviate from the path that everybody travels, that you're supposed to travel, I'm going to suffer a tragic consequence. That's not the case, right? You'll see that actually when you deviate from the path and flip the switch and create your own path, that it's a new life that's creating. Your life doesn't end in the sense that life is over because you screwed up, but rather a new life, a life that you never thought was possible suddenly emerges in front of you, and then it's like anything is possible. And this doesn't mean that you can't have any relationship, let's say with your parents who think you're crazy. My parents still think I'm crazy, but they love me. They're not mutually exclusive, right? Like, they respect my choices. They know I'm not an idiot. They know I don't agree with everything that they agree with, but doesn't mean we can't love each other. No, you absolutely can. They're not mutually exclusive, right? And so the same can be said for you. Of course, there's going to be struggles, and it's not going to be a walk in the park in the beginning, and you'll have to go through that. But it's absolutely worth the effort and the trials and tribulations in that pathway, because what opens up afterwards is just an incredible amount of exploration, potential, and yeah, it's like the unknown, right? Going away from the path. I mean, sure, you could get bitten by a snake or run into a tiger or a bear and get mauled, but that's what living is about. I mean, otherwise, just stay in your room and never leave the room. Just stay there forever, and live in safety. But you're physically alive, but you're not really living. And that's what I mean is, anybody who's watching this, I just want to let you know, there are ways to get out of the system, that you are in a system, there is a game being played, and that you have an opt-out switch. You really do. And it's fearful to check it or to flip the switch, because you've been programmed to think that life ends if you deviate from that you'd be an outcast and a beggar in the street, and so on and so forth. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And for the people who have opted out and defined it, you can see a lot of them, right? And the beauty is, because you define what success is, it's not uniform. Everybody has their own definition of what success is, right? Whether it be money, whether it be something else like relationships with other people, or the ability to help other people, or anything else. As long as it's not something negative or evil or pain-inducing, right, to others, you just define it. And you'll see that everybody has their own version of it, but the commonality is they all are fulfilled. You could be a farmer, you could be a yoga instructor, you could be a tech guy, you could be what I'm trying to do here in somebody just trying to share a good word with other people. Doesn't matter what you do, right? But the commonality is you'll be fulfilled, right? There's fulfillment in life. Right? Life is rich. And you can see it in their eyes. There's a sparkle in their eyes. I've met people who, yeah, I mean, you see it, farmers in like third world countries who have that sparkle. And I've been in, see like executive board meetings of billion dollar companies where I look around the table and there's absolutely no life in the eyes of people. They're all just heads down, busy doing things, not even looking up to what's going on around them. And they're just essentially biological robots. Like, robots can be both physical in terms of mechanical or biological in the sense. And they're just biological robots going through the game, right? And the game is rigged because even if you win, there's nothing there at the end. I just want to share this message for anybody who's watching this. Make your own rule sets, opt out of the game, don't be afraid, and succeed and put down the effort, and life will never be the same again. If you like this kind of content, please hit the like button and subscribe so the algorithm sends this message out to more people, which is ultimately my hope and why I'm spending all this time doing this. I'll see you in the next episode.